संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaaya te namaha. Welcome to the series of talks on the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the 7th talk and it is going to be on Swami Subodhananda. Swami Subodhananda, this is his picture. It's his actual birth anniversary today, or Tithi Puja, according to the lunar calendar. And we'll look at his life and we'll see how we can learn from it and progress through it. So today is the Tithi Puja, or birth anniversary, of another one of Sri Ramakrishna's disciples called Swami Subodhananda. The very distinct feature of his personality was simplicity. This was identified by none other than Sri Ramakrishna. Just the way he identified guilelessness as the distinct characteristic of Niranjan or Swami Niranjanananda. Early life and ancestry. Swami Subodhananda was known as Subodh Chandra Ghosh, was born on 8 November 1867 at 23 Shankar Ghosh Lane, Calcutta, India. His father's name was Krishna Das Ghosh, while his mother's name was Nayantara. Both were very devoted Hindus. Their family owned the Siddheshwari Kali temple at Tantaniya, Calcutta. This is a temple that even Sri Ramakrishna used to frequent after he moved to Calcutta, as he lived close by. Krishna Das, even though he was a very orthodox Hindu, was a member of the Brahma Samaj, which Swami Chetanananda calls a socio-religious organization led by Keshab Chandra Sen. Subodh used to attend the meetings of the Brahma Samaj with his family and read the literature of the Samaj. In this sense, he was similar to Shashi or Swami Ramakrishnananda, Sarat or Swami Saradananda, Naren or Swami Vivekananda, Rakhal or Swami Brahmananda, who all came to Sri Ramakrishna after they had been through the Brahma Samaj and come under the influence of Keshab Chandra Sen, who at that time was the leader of the Brahma Samaj. So quite a number of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were initially interested in the Brahma Samaj and Keshab Chandra Sen. And after that, by hearing about Sri Ramakrishna from Keshab and his writings, they became devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. But Subodh also had the influence of traditional Hinduism through his mother, Nayantara, who used to read to him stories from Bhagavata, Ramayana and Mahabharata. This is similar to the relationship between Naren and his mother. It was in this religious and spiritual environment that young Subodh was brought up. Swami Chetanananda quotes Swami Subodhananda's reminiscences of his youth when he said that he used to read the biographies of holy people and observe their lives, observe the way their lives were transformed. Subodh's academic education was initially at Albert collegiate school. He excelled in mathematics and was considered a good student. In grade 7, he was enrolled in the Hare School, Hare School, H-A-R-E, Hare School. Subodh then moved to Vidyasagar School, where Master Mahashaya was the headmaster. Some of the challenges that Subodh experienced in his childhood and youth, narrated by Swami Chetanananda, were being scared of the dark, fear of using a canoe or a nauka because he couldn't swim, and his father's attempt to marry him while he was in grade 8. This was general practice in those days, to marry children in their teens. Subodh tried to discourage his father from marrying him. When this did not work, he prayed to God, and this seems to have failed his grade 8 examinations in order to convince his father not to marry him. After he failed these exams, Subodh's father lost interest in marrying him, and Subodh's strategy not to get entangled in the world worked. Ironically, it was also through his father that Subodh heard about Sri Ramakrishna. This happened sometime in probably 1885. Subodh had previously read about Sri Ramakrishna in the Brahmo Journal. Krishnadas, Subodh's father, also presented Subodh with a book entitled Sri Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsher Ukti, The Sayings of Sri Ramakrishna, by Suresh Chandra Datta. After reading this book, Subodh had a great desire to meet Sri Ramakrishna and expressed this to his father. His father agreed and took him and the rest of his family and were to take him and the rest of the family sometime during the holidays to meet Sri Ramakrishna. Subodh's first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna. Subodh couldn't wait until the holidays to meet Sri Ramakrishna with his family. He had an urge to see him earlier. So in August 1885, he left for Dakshineshwar with his friend Kishore Chandra Mitra. But they did not know exactly where Dakshineshwar was. They got lost on the way. Then after asking some people, they finally arrived at their destination through the help of the gentleman who showed them a shortcut. At Dakshineshwar, Subodh didn't know the etiquette for interacting with a holy man like Sri Ramakrishna. So Subodh said to his friend Shirod to go ahead and meet the Paramahamsa while he watched from a little distance. Sri Ramakrishna, after his interaction, noticed Subodh standing a little distance away and sensed his apprehension. Sri Ramakrishna asked Subodh why he was standing aside. Thus encouraged, Subodh moved closer to Sri Ramakrishna. Then Sri Ramakrishna asked him if he belonged to the family of Shankar Ghosh. I do not know who Shankar Ghosh is. It might have been Subodh's grandfather. Subodh replied in the affirmative and asked Sri Ramakrishna how he was. Sri Ramakrishna replied that when he was living in Jamatpukur, he often visited their house and the Kali temple at Tantaniya before Subodh was born. Then Sri Ramakrishna added that he knew that Subodh would come and that the Divine Mother will send those who will attain spirituality to him. He added that Subodh belongs to this place. To this, Subodh replied, "If that is true, why did you not call me earlier?" To this, Sri Ramakrishna replied that whatever happens, happens at the right time. Then Sri Ramakrishna asked Subodh to sit on his bed. Subodh replied that he could not sit on his bed because he was wearing his school clothes. Sri Ramakrishna replied to Subodh that Subodh was his own and that it doesn't matter if his clothes were dirty. Then Subodh and Shirodh sat on the ground and talked about how they had traveled the distance to Dakshineshwar on foot, which Sri Ramakrishna was amazed at because of the distance and age of the boys. When Sri Ramakrishna asked how he had heard about him, to this Subodh said that he had read about his teachings, that is, either in the Brahma Samaj literature or in Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Rukti by Suresh Chandra Datta as described earlier. Swami Chaitanananda mentioned that when Subodh said this, Sri Ramakrishna's mood changed and he became the embodiment of humility. Sri Ramakrishna said that he was lower than a worm and name and form were ridiculous. This shows how Sri Ramakrishna was constantly on the guard with respect to his mind in case it got puffed up with the idea of acquiring name and fame. The conversation between the boys and Sri Ramakrishna continued, and he asked the boys to return on Tuesday or Saturdays, which are the days sacred for the worship of the Divine Mother. Subodh's second visit to Sri Ramakrishna and initiation into spiritual life. The next Saturday, Subodh and Shirodh went from school to Dakshineshwar. When they arrived in Sri Ramakrishna's room, it was filled with people. Sri Ramakrishna noticed the boys and signaled to them to wait outside. Soon after that, Sri Ramakrishna took leave of the crowd in his room and went towards Subodh and Shirodh. The time was about 3 p.m. Sri Ramakrishna asked Rakal to bring some Ganges water, which he sprinkled on himself. He then took the two boys towards the Shiva temple at the periphery of the quadrangle of the temple complex. Sri Ramakrishna sat down and he asked Subodh and Shirodh to do likewise on the ground. He then asked the two boys to unbutton their shirts and to stick out their tongues. Sri Ramakrishna first initiated Shirodh by writing something on his tongue with his finger and stroked his chest from the navel to the throat, uttering, "Awake, mother, awake." Then he did the same thing to Subodh. After both of them had been initiated, he asked them to meditate. When Subodh started to meditate, his whole body trembled and he felt a current rushing along his spiritual column to his brain. He was overcome with joy and saw a light within him, against the backdrop of which he saw numerous gods and goddesses. His meditation deepened, and he is said to have lost his personal identity. When he regained consciousness, Subodh noticed that Sri Ramakrishna was stroking his body in the reverse way, from his throat to his navel. Then Sri Ramakrishna asked Subodh if he had practiced meditation at home. To this, Subodh replied that after hearing about gods and goddesses from his mother, he had thought about them. Sri Ramakrishna replied that that is the reason why he was able to meditate so easily. Sri Ramakrishna then asked Shirodh if he had felt anything during meditation. To this, Shirodh replied in the negative. Sri Ramakrishna then replied to him that he will experience something later. In last week's class, we briefly discussed spiritual experiences while discussing the life of Swami Advaitananda. I mentioned that the phrase spiritual experience had been used very loosely and is still used very loosely. The spiritual experience of Swami Subodhananda seems to have been genuine because it was accompanied by light. To those familiar with Swami Vivekananda's life will also remember that he used to see light between his eyebrows before he fell asleep in his boyhood or youth. Sri Ramakrishna bringing together his disciples, Subodh with Sarath, Shashi and Narendra. Sri Ramakrishna introduced Shashi, Swami Ramakrishnananda, and Sarath, Swami Saradananda, to Subodh. Sri Ramakrishna also asked them to visit each other. To this, Subodh replied that he did not mind visiting their house, but they should not come to his house in case his father found out. If he found out, he may get mad with Subodh. Sri Ramakrishna also asked Shashi and Sarath to introduce Narendra to Subodh, which happened after he contracted throat cancer. Sri Ramakrishna's bringing together his disciples, Subodh with Master Mahashaya, or M. Sri Ramakrishna, after he had initiated Subodh and Shirodh, asked them to visit M, or Master Mahashaya. Master Mahashaya was the head teacher at Subodh's school. Then, when M visited Sri Ramakrishna on 31 August 1885, Sri Ramakrishna asked M to interact and instruct the boys from Shankar Ghosha's house and their neighborhood. M, after going back home, sent a letter of invitation to Subodh. But Subodh did not accept the invitation because he thought, how am I going to profit from the instructions of a householder? After some time, Sri Ramakrishna asked Subodh if he had visited M because he lived close by. To this, Subodh replied that he had not, because he did not think that he can profit from visiting a householder. To this, Sri Ramakrishna said that M wouldn't talk about himself, but would only narrate the things that he had heard from Sri Ramakrishna. This story does not stop there. After a few days, Subodh finally visited M. Not only did he visit him, but he also point blank narrated why he hadn't come earlier. To this M replied in his own humble way and said, "It is true, I am nobody, but I live beside the ocean of knowledge and bliss and keep a few containers of that with me. When a guest comes, I offer that to them. What else am I to talk about?" M then went on to relate to Subodh how he had felt proud of his university education. This university education enabled him to know much about the world, but it didn't help him to know about God. That is why, after M had met Sri Ramakrishna, his perspective changed. True knowledge is that which removes primordial ignorance. This, M said, removed his pride of learning after coming in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. In this way, Sri Ramakrishna brought together his disciples, both monastic and lay. How did Subodh look upon Sri Ramakrishna? Swami Chaitanananda says that in the beginning of their relationship, Subodh did not look upon Sri Ramakrishna as an avatar or a divine incarnation. On one occasion, Sri Ramakrishna asked Subodh, "What do you think of me?" Subodh replied, "Many people say many things about you, but I won't believe them until I have clear proof." Sri Ramakrishna did not get angry or get put off when Subodh replied in this manner. Sri Ramakrishna then said to him, "Very well, as a money changer checks coins, likewise accept me after testing." You would remember that Narayan or Swami Vivekananda also tested Sri Ramakrishna with coins hidden under his mattress. I do not know if Subodh did anything like that to test Sri Ramakrishna, but it shows that he was a skeptic at heart, even though he had had spiritual experience at the time of his initiation by Sri Ramakrishna. Another example of Subodh's skepticism was with respect to the emotional display by the devotees during Kirtan. Once, in the presence of Subodh, the devotees were dancing and singing Kirtan in the master's room. Sri Ramakrishna was in an ecstatic state. The devotees seemed to be reveling in his spiritual ambience. Some were crying, some laughing, some dancing. Others were transfixed like motionless statues, and some began to roll on the floor. Swami Chaitanananda says that Subodh was very skeptical about this kind of emotional display. After the Kirtan, Subodh asked Sri Ramakrishna who had real ecstasy in the Kirtan. Sri Ramakrishna took a moment to consider the question and said, "Latu alone had the fullest measure of it. Others only had a sprinkling of it." Those of you who have read the life of Swami Vivekananda by his Eastern and Western disciples will know that Narayan also used to take to task those who exaggerated their spiritual ecstasy. Swami Chaitanananda says that years later, Swami Subodhananda commented upon Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi by saying that unless they reveal themselves, nobody will be able to recognize them. Sometime later, When Sri Ramakrishna tried to get Subodh to practice meditation, Subodh replied, "Why should I have come to you if I have to do that? I could have gone to some other guru." Sri Ramakrishna replied to him, "In that case, you don't need to practice meditation. Just think of me in the morning and evening." To those of you who are familiar with Girish Ghos's interactions with Sri Ramakrishna, something similar transpired between them with regard to Girish transferring his power of attorney to Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Chetanananda also narrates another incident when Sri Ramakrishna touched Subodh and told him, "Today I have taken away lust from your mind." What did Subodh learn from Sri Ramakrishna from his teachings and observations? Even though Subodh had had a vision of gods and goddesses at the time of his initiation, he once asked Sri Ramakrishna if gods and goddesses can be seen. Sri Ramakrishna replied, "One can see God as one sees two persons talking together or walking, but one should call on God from the bottom of their heart. Pray and cry to Him. Demand His vision from Him as children demand toys from their parents with loud cries." Excuse me. Remove all worldly desires from the mind. Always remember, I have a mother and I am her son. Narain, Swami Vivekananda, also asked a similar question to Sri Ramakrishna and received a similar reply. On another occasion, Sri Ramakrishna told Subodh, "Those who shall attain spiritual experience will feel comfortable with my ideas and teachings. He who has faith in me has faith in God, and again, who does not have faith in me does not have faith in God either." Another incident reported by Swami Subodhananda was when, while walking in the Panchavati at Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna went into ecstasy. Then, pointing to himself, he said, "Look at the mother. Look, the mother is saying that the more a person thinks of me, the more quickly he or she will understand the highest truths of religion." Another day, Sri Ramakrishna told Subodh about himself. "This body is a cage of flesh and bone, but the mother is playing inside. He who was Rama and Krishna is living in this body." At times, Sri Ramakrishna would say about himself, "The Divine Mother herself has come to visit the world in human form. When people of all sects assemble here, this body will not last." Subodh was not as lucky as some of the other youth to nurse, care and serve Sri Ramakrishna at Shampukur or Kosipur when he had throat cancer. Even though he was facing some opposition from his parents, he visited Sri Ramakrishna on some occasions. One day at Kosipur, Subodh asked the master to bless him so that he realizes God. In response, Sri Ramakrishna patted his back thrice and said, "Yes, yes, you will realize God. And in the future, many people will come to learn from you." Experiences while on pilgrimage. After Sri Ramakrishna passed away, Subodh tried to resume his studies, but he was unable to. He used to visit the Holy Mother, who moved from Kosipur to Balaram Bose's house after Sri Ramakrishna passed away. He also visited Holy Mother when she was staying in Kamarpukur. During this period, his renunciation for the world was growing. It became unbearable for him to stay at home. So one day he just left for Varanasi. While traveling, he would be like a wandering monk. He would take shelter under a tree, a meadow, or the bank of a river. At noon, he ate whatever he got by begging. After visiting Lord Vishwanath and Goddess Annapurna, he got some relief. In the meantime, his family got wind of where he was and brought him back to Calcutta. After this, Subodh joined the Baranagar monastery. He became Swami Subodhananda after performing the Virija Homa. His brother disciples would call him Koka, a small boy. Swami Subodhananda was also known as Koka Maharaj in the Ramakrishna order. In December 1889, Swami Brahmananda and Subodhananda left for Varanasi. In 1890, they went to Omkarnath, Bombay or Mumbai, Dwaraka, Girna, Pushkar, and later to Vrindavan. From Vrindavan, Subodhananda went to Kedarnath, Badrinath in the Himalayas. In the south, he visited Kanyakumari, Rameshwaram, Madurai, and Madras or Chennai. While in Haridwar, Swami Subodhananda was once very weak. He complained to Sri Ramakrishna. He then fell asleep. In either a dream or a vision, he saw Sri Ramakrishna stroking his body. Sri Ramakrishna asked him why he was anxious. He said that he was always with him. Sri Ramakrishna offered Subodhananda attendance or money, but Subodhananda didn't want either. He only prayed that he doesn't forget Sri Ramakrishna and asked him to be with him. In the morning, when he woke up, there was another monk who offered to beg food for him. Subodhananda said that he didn't want anything. Subodhananda asked the monk how he had heard about him. The monk replied that he had been instructed by Durga in a vision. On the same day, there was another monk who had received some money. The monk offered to pay for Subodhananda's food and medical expenses. Swami Subodhananda declined. Then the monk came the next day and said that he was also instructed by Mother Durga. Swami Subodhananda declined again and prayed to Sri Ramakrishna not to tempt him. The young monk came again on the third day, but not after that. On another occasion, Swami Subodhananda had a life-threatening incident while crossing a river. Remember, he did not know how to swim. That was the problem. After making his final salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, he felt someone holding him up and pulling him out of the water. Subodhananda felt that was Sri Ramakrishna. A few amusing incidents of Swami Subodhananda in the company of Sri Sarada Devi and Swami Vivekananda. In 1911, the Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi visited Belur Mutt after her pilgrimage to the south. Swami Brahmananda arranged a grand reception for her at Belur Mutt, which was decorated for the occasion. The monks were asked to stand in queue to have the darshan and salute Holy Mother. Then from behind the queue, someone came running and took the dust off Holy Mother's feet unexpectedly. Who was that? Koka Maharaj or Swami Subodhananda? Swami Brahmananda was amused at this and called out, "Who is he? Catch him!" Everyone laughed, seeing the understanding why Swami Subodhananda was called Koka Maharaj. Swami Subodhananda had great love and regard for Swami Vivekananda and used to consider him to be Shiva. After Swami Vivekananda returned to the West, he insisted that the monks living in the monastery engage in public speaking. Swami Subodhananda was reluctant to do this, but still, as Swami Vivekananda insisted, he agreed to do so. Just when Subodhananda started his talk, there was an earthquake that struck, uprooting trees and shaking the building. That was the devastating earthquake of 12 June 1897. Swami Subodhananda's talk was called off. Swami Vivekananda commented that Subodhananda had made an earth-shattering speech. Everyone laughed. Another incident that occurred in the presence of Swami Vivekananda was Swami Subodhananda's love for drinking tea. One day, Swami Vivekananda asked Subodhananda if he could prepare a smoke for him. Swami Subodhananda did this. Swami Vivekananda was so pleased with Subodhananda that he asked him to ask him for a boon. Swami Subodhananda was initially reluctant, but his brother disciples insisted that he do so. So what did Subodhananda ask for? He asked that in whatever circumstances I may be in, may I not miss my daily cup of tea. Many years later, Swami Subodhananda was asked if this boon had been fulfilled. He answered in the affirmative, saying that sometimes tea came from unexpected quarters. Different responsibilities of Swami Subodhananda. Subodhananda was appointed a trustee of the Ramakrishna Mutt by Swami Vivekananda. He later became a treasurer. Subodhananda also engaged himself in relief work like the famine relief work in Chilka, Orissa in 1908. He also used to help Swami Advaitananda with the vegetable garden in Belur Mutt. He used to also cut vegetables for cooking Thakur Sri Ramakrishna's bhog of food. He also gave spiritual initiation from 1915 after his initial apprehension. When he went for the dedication of the Sri Ramakrishna temple in Dhaka, Bangladesh, he initiated a lot of people, including children. Important teachings of Swami Subodhananda. Once in 1897, Swami Subodhananda delivered a lecture on sannyasa and brahmacharya at the Young Men's Hindu Association. This was later published in the November 1898 issue of Prabhupada Bharata. Swami Subodhananda said that sannyasa is the renunciation of all selfish motives and desires. Brahmacharya is the basis of sannyasa. Brahmacharya is the strict regulation of one's diet, habits, and thoughts. The aspirant pursuing brahmacharya and sannyasa must be eternally vigilant about arousing the animal or lustful propensities in individuals. Control of the mind is the cornerstone of both. Swami Chaitananda quotes more from this lecture, but I am only giving you a snippet. On praying, Swami Subodhananda once said, "Pray to God sincerely, then you will see Him." Sincere prayer means Tell the Lord your pain and your problems with tears in your eyes. Ask Him for faith and devotion. Always remember that you are a companion of Sri Ramakrishna's companion. Make your mind strong. On another occasion, Swami Subodhananda talked about japa, or the repetition of God's name. He said, all power belongs to God. If anyone repeats the mantra, he or she will definitely get the result. One can overcome all obstacles by repeating the mantra. The impressions of another monk of Swami Subodhananda. Swami Chetanananda quotes the reminiscences of a monk on Swami Subodhananda. The following is a summary of this. He said that Subodhananda was easily accessible and that everyone felt free with him. He mixed freely with all, irrespective of age, denomination, etc. He was a great sympathizer with the other monks and brahmacharis. In other words, he was all ears to the problems of the inmates of the monastery. Swami Subodhananda was very self-reliant and would not accept personal service even when he was sick. He was a minimalist. His wants were very few and was satisfied by whatever came unsought. He is said to have given great importance to self-surrender to God. His external life was very simple. Those of you who are interested can either read Swami Chetanananda's God Live With Them or Swami Gambhirananda's Apostles of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Subodhananda's daily routine at Belur Mutt towards the end. Swami Subodhananda's daily routine in Belur Mutt was getting up at 3:30 a.m. He would smoke a hubble bubble, have a wash, and go to the shrine at 4. Until 9 a.m., he would either sit on his bed or on the upper veranda facing the Ganges. He would then have tea. Until lunch, he would read the scriptures, especially the Puranas. After lunch, he would rest. In the late afternoon or evening, he would go for a walk. In the evening, he would sit quietly until dinner. Towards the end, Swami Subodhananda suffered from various health issues like diabetes and blood dysentery. In spite of this, he traveled and initiated people. In the beginning of 1931, he contracted tuberculosis. An hour before he passed away, he looked intently at the pictures of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda. When a monk asked him, "Can you see the Master?" To this, Subodhananda nodded his head. He then passed away at 3:05 p.m. on 2 December 1932. He passed away in the old mission office room on the first floor closest to the Ganges. That room is now used as one of the residences of the vice presidents. So this is the end of the talk on Swami Subodhananda. And because lucky for us, it fell on his Tithi Puja day. So today is a special day. Let us pray to him and Thakur and Ma and Swamiji to bless us so that we are able to progress in our spiritual lives. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Paramastu